There are thousands of games released on Steam every month. Some will end up being Fire Flame and played by thousands. Some will end up being dog water trash.
Stinky!
And some will end up not being played by anyone. That's where I come in. No, I'm not only going to play games that no one else has ever played before. However, I'm going to give them a somewhat fair shot to be played. So this is what I did. First, I took all games that were released during December 2025, which was roughly 4,000 games. Then, I removed all games without Steam achievements, which surprisingly reduced it down to nearly 1,000 games. Then, after removing games with these attributes, I was left with just over 500 games. This is when I started selecting games for the spin wheel, and when I learned about Steam restrictions. Around 100 of the 500 remaining games are unrestricted, which means they have met Steam's criteria and will be included in Steam profile stats. Of the unrestricted games, I chose around 50 to add to the wheel. For the restricted games, I chose games I thought looked fun, and removed games where you find cats, and games like these, which I figured would be better played at a different time. Then, I'm not gonna lie, I got tired of going through games, so I kinda just randomly selected the rest to get to around 100. Which eventually is going to bite me in the ass. And just like that, we have our playing field. Now let's get to the first game.
Okay.
Once Upon a Shell is a roguelike racing game where you play as a tortoise en route to winning the Hare Cup. You run, slide, and jump your way through several races, moving on to the next race if you win, and if you lose, well, you get the choice to rage quit the game or get sent back to the main menu. The main mechanic in the game is tucking into your shell to slide or drift when going downhill, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt pretty smooth. The game also has upgrades you can purchase with the coins you collect within the race, and if you combine a few upgrades with some elite level gaming talent, you end up with this. There is some clunkiness with the camera at certain points, but I only noticed it when trying to decide which upgrades I wanted. Overall, I enjoyed my short time on this game. Most of the negative reviews I read were related to having to start over when you lose. Get good, I guess. However, it was slightly annoying you had to redo the short tutorial level every playthrough. It should also be mentioned that this game was made by students in what was most likely a short development time. All that being said, I'm going to put it right here in the middle for enjoyment since I enjoy myself. However, it was a little janky at times and it was a bit short, which is also why I'm putting it in the slept through it tier.
Whoa!
If this isn't a sign to keep my day job, I don't know what is. Office Simulator is a business simulation game where you start at the bottom as a wee little intern and slowly work your way up the corporate ladder. And when I say up, I literally mean up. You start on the 22nd floor and your only option is up. You start off by doing tasks like filling out and delivering documents, making coffee for your coworkers, replying to emails, and answering phones. Oh, and you can pee. The game introduces you to new tasks as you progress, each increasing your experience level, which will eventually lead to promotions. Very quickly you realize that you've done all the available tasks and you're in a cycle of do tasks, level up, get promotion. Looking back, I'm glad there wasn't an achievement for each of the promotions because as soon as I could open my own business, I did. Once the new business is started, you are put into your own office space, which is completely empty other than a desk. As a business owner, you can now hire employees, which I always did solely based on experience. You can also now bid on jobs. This introduced a few new employee types that were required to bid on certain jobs. If you like simulators, then I feel like you will like this one. Other simulators that I've 100%ed, there always seems to be a period where I end up doing the same stuff over and over again with no other progression to really strive for. I didn't get to that point with Office Simulator. So let's finish this game off with a couple good things, a couple bad things, and a couple burning questions. The good: 1. You can pee. 2. No matter how I organized my office in the late game, it always seemed like I had a good view. The bad: some of these tasks were annoying as hell. Like, why do I have to color? Later in the game, you can assign these types of tasks to an assistant, so that was nice. But then also, for some reason, half the time, you wouldn't be able to throw away your coffee cup, which pissed me off. Anyway, now the burning questions. First, how come when I end a day needing to pee, I start the next day needing to pee? Can I not pee at home? Then, second, why can't I go down? For the rankings, I'm going to put it in good. It wasn't great, but I also wasn't overly annoyed after playing it like some simulator games. Then for the 100% difficulty, I'm going to slot it into casual. Okay, when you read Shattering Darkness, what kind of game do you think of? I read Shattering Darkness and I thought it was going to be some kind of psychological horror, or maybe a puzzle platformer, or anything involving darkness. It's Bejeweled. It's freaking Bejeweled. Let's make this quick. Shattering Darkness is a match 3 puzzle game where you have a set number of tiles you need to collect to pass each level. Each level has a unique layout, adding obstacles to make each level more difficult, or in my opinion, more annoying. There would be times I would just be looking for a single move, or just waiting this 15 seconds for it to show me the only move, only for it to reshuffle into another single move. Luckily, if you get stuck, there are helpful power-ups you can use, like the Mighty Hammer. I feel a little bit bad, but I have to put this game here. I didn't enjoy myself. The only redeeming factor was the soundtrack was hype for a couple of minutes. For difficulty, I feel like I should put it here, because I think I literally did sleep through it a couple times. However, just because it felt like it took 8 hours to finish, I'm bumping it up to casual. Cat named Mojave is a nice, considerate, and hopeful cat that asks you to help him with his collection. Is what I would say if a humanoid catman's grotesque requests were my only option to avoid being stranded in the desert. Cat named Mojave is a first-person surreal horror game where you find yourself stranded on the side of the road where there just so happens to be a gate open that leads you to the one and only Mojave. Upon meeting him, he insults your looks and offers you a proposition. A spare car battery if you help him by hunting down several specific creatures to add to his collection. So you grab the shotgun and you head on your way. I'm not a big horror game guy, mainly because I'm a chicken shit. However, this game was sick. I believe my favorite part of this game was the atmosphere. The mix of retro visuals and haunting music and sounds creates this psychological weight that felt like it was staring at you at all times. My hands sweated a lot playing this game, especially when Mojave would do shit like this. I could go on and on about how much I like the graphics in this game and the interesting and complex character that Mojave is, but I don't want to spoil too much. However, I do strongly recommend that you play this game. Let's go ahead and get this ranking out of the way. I almost want to add a new tier up above, but I will keep within the scale we have and easily put it here. It's a great game. It made me feel things I don't know I've felt before playing games, and it does all of that while not taking itself too seriously. Now for difficulty, The only achievement worth mentioning is Bookworm, which makes you find all of the books in the world. There are also firing ranges set up in several spots in the game where you need to hit all of the targets in a single round, but those are easy enough. This game was decently short, taking me around 3 hours to 100%. However, since I'm a wimp, and it was an emotionally difficult 3 hours, I'm putting it here. Fight me. Also, she deserved this. Let Him Bake is an endless runner with incremental and roguelite elements. You are him, and your goal is to dash through a low-poly world, dodging obstacles and collecting ingredients to bake as many cookies as you can. Once you eventually crash into a traffic cone or cop car, you take your cookies back to your cafe, sell them, and then purchase upgrades with them. Upgrades include movement speed, ingredient collection multiplier, bake timer, and batch multiplier. Then after a bit of progress, you can afford the last upgrade, which gives you a chance to summon RNGesus, who blesses you with an additional cookie multiplier. There are also permanent upgrades. You can upgrade to better cookies, which are worth more, or you can rebirth, which grants you permanent upgrades and different colored pants. This game had me a little worried at first. It took me at least 4 runs until I was able to cook a single cookie. Once I got the controls down and a couple of upgrades into movement speed though, my progress started to snowball. I couldn't help but think that this game looked like it would be in the background of one of those videos where the Reddit post is read by an AI voice and there's video game footage in the background. Despite that, I had a pretty good time playing this game. It's not the deepest game, but the numbers go up and upgrades were satisfying enough, and saving up your ingredients for a while and then hitting a big RNGesus multiplier was chef's kiss. For the ranking, I think it should go somewhere between okay and good. For now, I'll throw it into good. Then for the 100% difficulty, it was pretty straightforward. The only achievement I will mention is the no breaks achievement, which is traveling 2.5 kilometers in a single run. I wouldn't say it's all that difficult. I would even say it's casual. A game about feeding a black hole. No confusion what this game is about. A game about feeding a black hole is a short incremental game about feeding a black hole. You destroy asteroids, planets, and stars, leading them directly to a ever-growing black hole. Feeding the black hole makes it happy, and it reimburses you with cold hard cash that you can use to purchase upgrades like breaker radius, number of asteroids, and breaker damage. You rinse and repeat this process, upgrading your breaker and increasing your time per round and amount of asteroids per round along the way. I can usually get down with a short incremental game, but this one didn't quite do it for me. It's not bad, but I felt progression was a little too linear. The upgrade tree pretty much forced a fixed purchase order, so after the 6th or 7th run, I was just spamming upgrades as I made money. After beating the main game mode, there are several other game modes you can play that adjust a few of the mechanics. My personal favorite was the Zen mode, mainly because I could just sit back and think about things like, we are basically on one of those rocks, floating through space at the mercy of some hungry black hole. Oh look, there's me making my first YouTube video. And oh, there's you liking my first YouTube video. Okay, is what I'm rating it. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. Achievements were easy, so I will slot it in snug at the bottom. Also, you probably noticed the void at the top of the scale. No spoilers, but just wait.
Game 7! Game 7!
If you can't tell by the game's menu, things are gonna get a little weird. Chingus Goose is an idle-ish, physics-based clicker strategy management game. When two people love each other, and other things happen, you can grow a goose. Your goal is to then grow said goose so it can reach its potential lover. To grow your goose, you need to water it. To water it, you need money. To get money, you need these little guys called tingus. Tingus are spit into existence continuously from the head of your goose. You then earn money as the tingus interacts with blossoms that you grow out of your goose's neck. These can range from a goose beak slide to a drum set. Yes, a drum set. It's pretty crazy how fast I would forget the absurdness of this game because I would be locked in trying to make the most efficient path for my tingus to descend. But then I would get backhanded by the cutscene in between each level. Have a look for yourself. Yep. This game scratched an itch I didn't even know I had. It's advertised as an idler, however, I found myself actively playing it for a couple of hours at a time. There were a few bugs in the game. At least half the time the cutscene wouldn't play in between levels, and I'll talk about another bug when we get to the achievements. But first, let's rank it based on enjoyment. Although a bit strange, I would come back to this game, which I think fits it right here in good. For 100% difficulty, this is actually the first game I didn't finish. However, it's not my fault. One of the Blossom unlocks is stuck locked, which is keeping me from getting the last few achievements. I tried several different things to try and get it to pop, but had no luck. How long this game takes to finish is determined on how much you play it actively and how much you idle. Regardless, it's a decently long grind. Quick interruption. If you couldn't tell by the top tier professional editing or the sheer emptiness on my channel, this is my first video, so if you enjoyed yourself in the slightest so far, consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Now let's get to the next game. Pause. Spoiler alert, I spun a game called Terminal Breach, which is a first-person boomer shooter. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me. Every time I would launch the game, it would go to an opening screen and stay there. I tried verifying my files and deleting and re-downloading the game, but that proved unsuccessful, so I had to refund and move on. Kind of a bummer too, because I haven't played many boomer shooters and this one looked promising based on the Steam page. Now I was in the mood for a first-person shooter, so I filtered the remaining games for first-person shooters and spun a wheel to choose a new one. The game I spun, Unlimited Ammo Survivor, launched and I could play it, although horribly optimized. After several runs, I noticed the gold I earned on the first run after launch was the amount of gold rewarded to me every run after that as well. I cheesed this a little and launched the game, did a decent run, then died quickly on purpose a few times to stack some gold for upgrades. But then I noticed my total enemies defeated number was only increasing on the first run after each launch, so I decided that quitting and relaunching after each run to progress was ultimately too much, and moved on. There was a kill 1 million monsters achievement, and getting 1 million of anything in a game is usually grindy, so maybe it was for the best, but more on this game later. The second spin of the FPS wheel resulted in a game called Wave Function 1.0, which, surprise, was also busted. I played this one for a little while though, so let's briefly talk about it. At first, it just seemed like a basic wave-based first-person shooter, but that went downhill fast. It was pretty clunky feeling from the start, but I think there was something bugged with the movement speed upgrade because I felt like I randomly started moving at 10 times the speed, and it also affected my mouse sensitivity, so I kept having to toggle my DPI button up and down. The score also bugged out, and the boss fights that would appear every several rounds were impervious to damage. And damn were they annoying. They would repeat the same AI sounding tagline over and over and over. Easiest decision of my life. No ifs, ands, buts, or afters. I'm not adding it to the difficulty tier because I don't think it's possible in its current state. Next. After going 0 for 3 on FPS games, I was debating if I wanted to try another or just move on. That is when I found this, an update to Unlimited Ammo Survivor that fixed the progression issues that I had before.
Okay.
Unlimited Ammo Survivor is a bullet hell, roguelite, first-person shooter where your goal is to kill monsters, select and upgrade weapons, and survive 30 minutes. As I mentioned earlier, the performance in this game is lackluster to say the least. It's kind of funny, but if you're bad at the game and select bad weapon combinations or don't get many power-ups, your FPS will be worse than if you were making a good build and clearing the mobs constantly. There's not too much to this game. There are bosses on each map that you have to defeat to unlock the last level, but I feel like they weren't balanced all that well. The majority of them I just mowed through even if I hadn't leveled my build completely. The only boss I feel like put up any fight was the last one, which is Satan. If you can look past constant frame drops, I would say give this game a try. It's like $4 or $5. I'm a big frames per second snob though, so that along with some balancing issues and bugs on some of the leveled weapons, I think this game is going to be the first addition to the bad tier. For 100% difficulty, the game isn't all that hard, but the Kill 1 Million Monsters achievement is just grindy as hell. I've put 10 plus hours into the game and I don't think I'm a quarter of the way done yet. Easy takes effort tier. Rhythm Doctor is a one-button rhythm game where you are a remote intern working at a hospital where patients are treated by defibrillating their heart in sync with their heartbeats. Each patient has their own unique medical case, which brings its own story, characters, and most importantly, a unique mechanic or rhythm. The game eases you in, starting you off with easier mechanics like silent beats and easier rhythms. Then as you progress through the story, it introduces more difficult mechanics like polyrhythms and irregular time signatures. Multiple different mechanics will also be thrown at you within one song, sometimes simultaneously. It also goes a bit deeper than just when you press the spacebar, but also how you press your spacebar, with some mechanics requiring you to hold the spacebar. There are also levels that force you to completely rely on how well you can stay on beat in your head. I found myself using my other hand to help stay on beat. I don't want to spoil too much, but I will at least show some short clips of my favorite levels. I enjoyed this game quite a bit. The story wasn't overly deep, but it was enhanced so much by the music that accompanied it. I think this is a pretty easy ranking for enjoyment. I have known about this game for a little bit, however, it finally fully released in December 2025, so I'm kind of glad I spun it. But there's a dark side. The 100% on this game is tough. I think I made it through like the first 3 acts of 6 before having to do a level twice to pass, but that's not the hard part. To 100% the game, you have to S rank like 14 levels, which is not missing a beat. It's super rewarding, but man did it piss me off when I would do a whole level flawlessly and F up the last note. I also didn't finish this game. I know, I'm a failure, but I did give it a good go before I had to start editing this video. The only achievement I have left is to S-rank the finale, which is 2 parts and 15 plus minutes of numerous mechanics from the whole game being thrown at you. Easy ranking up at the top. And there you have it. 10 of Steam's most recent games randomly selected, played, ranked, and 100%ed. I have noticed a few of the games I played have came out with updates since I played them, so some of the issues I had may have been addressed. I did play some of these games within a week of them being released. This video also came out a little later than I originally planned, but I feel like I learned a lot from my first video. If you have any feedback, drop it in the comments. Also drop your favorite games released in December 2025 or suggestions for 2026. I think this is where I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe and then sign off with some cheesy tagline, so take it steezy. Or whatever. Later.